This episode is rated M for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of the PFC Entertainment Network or any of the affiliates that make this show possible.
This is the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network.
I'm Jason Klaus. And over the course of my life, I've done a lot of different things, and I've worn a lot of different hats. But this may be my greatest endeavor yet. On this show, we are going to focus on life. We are going to focus on the basic fundamentals. We are going to focus on the silver lining. Because no matter what happens, no matter what is thrown our way, there is a silver lining. There is a lesson to be learned. Sometimes we just have to look a little bit harder, a little bit deeper for it. That's what this show is all about. Sometimes it's going to be rough, sometimes it's going to be raw, sometimes it may be hard to listen to, but it's something that you need to hear. This just got real.
And now, the Pure Fury Creations Entertainment Network presents its flagship show, the Klaus to the Heart podcast. Here is your host, Jason Klaus.
And we welcome you to the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network. Welcome to the Klaus to the Heart podcast. I'm Jason Klaus. I certainly appreciate you tuning in here this week. And we do have, I have a list of sorts that we're going to break down in just a moment. And it stems from a conversation that I had last week. And life is funny in the way that things materialize, timing comes into play, and me being me, like, I pick up on a lot of things, and when timing starts to come into play, and it's undeniable, like, I'm a firm believer that most everything happens for a reason. And I had gotten into a conversation of sorts with a good friend of mine who I have known for, Jesus, forever. And, it was one of those things where we hadn't seen each other in quite some time. And, reconnecting, and he had been paying attention, what's been happening with, in his words, he Facebook stalks me to kind of keep tabs on what I've got going on and things of this nature. And I really do appreciate that. And I mean, it got into a pretty lengthy conversation. And during the course of that talk, and again, this is somebody that I've known for quite some time, and it's kind of been on the sidelines, for the lack of a better term, but has had a bird's eye view as to what I have put out on a public realm. And and you combine that with personal conversations, there's bits and pieces of the story that he's gotten just like snippets of information on, like, why did this happen, or what's happening here, or this, that, and the other thing. What brought you to this point in your life? And without going into a tremendous amount of detail, like, I was able to give him enough information to where he was like, Jesus, how do you do it? How did you do it? And it sparked a relatively meaningful conversation. I tie that in with a meme that I had found, I had come across my radar, and the irony of the whole thing is the meme came across my radar like I seen it just a couple of hours after I had had the conversation, to the point to where when I seen this, I'm like, this is going to be a show topic. This is going to be the day that it drops, and I want, I sent him a message. I'm like, you are going to want to listen to this week's show because it's going to tie into what we had talked about. But with everything else, I also try to find topics that's going to resonate with anybody that tunes into the show. Because look, make no mistake about it, I understand, especially in the podcast world where it is just so overly saturated with content creators and podcasters, and you can tell within the first 10 minutes or so what kind of effort is being put into these podcasts. You can tell the people who really want to make something out of this, and then you see other ones that are just doing this as a platform for they and their buddies to get on here or get on a public platform and just flap the gums without any substance behind it. They just do it just to do it, right? And anybody that knows me knows what this network is and what my goals are with this. And again, I'm kind of playing catch up here, and just kind of touching on a couple of different things that I want to make mention of before we get into the topic at hand here. But I need folks to understand that I put a lot of effort, I put a lot of thought into what I'm going to do each and every week, especially on the flagship show. The other shows have co-hosts on them, right? So, regular co-hosts, I should say. And, so I take very much into consideration what they want to do, what they want to talk about. They very much have a hand in what is presented on their respective shows. This one is different. This one is very much an extension of me. This is my platform. This is where you get me, full blown, straight to the core me. You know what I mean? And I take that very seriously. And I know that there are people that tune in to this particular program, and that's what they expect. And anything else, I'm being disingenuous, right? So I just wanted to reiterate that. And as far as network news goes, I was part of a pretty big announcement here over this past weekend where we welcomed a new addition to the PFC Entertainment Network family. If you are a fan of the show Creepy Soup, you should be in the loop. If you're not, well, here we go. If you are a fan of Creepy Soup, you know that in recent weeks, Jill Bain's daughter, Judy, had been sitting in for Jenny Ostrom, who had to take a leave of absence. Well, Jenny's back. She's able to return to the show. And with that, we had to figure out what we were going to do with the future of Creepy Soup, because now you had two separate entities, you had two separate identities for the show. How do we take the best of both worlds here and combine them for the best interest of the show and its future? So after a conference call between myself and the two original hosts, Jill and Jenny, we have decided that Creepy Soup is expanding to 2 episodes a week now. You'll get one with original host Jenny Ostrom, and then the new day that the second episode is going to drop will feature Jill's daughter Judy. So if you are a fan of the original team or you're a fan of the new team, you get the best of both worlds. And for fans of Creepy Soup, you are really loving life right now because you're getting 2 episodes a week now. So love that for all of you. So we wanted to make mention of that here on the flagship show and to welcome Judy to the PFC family. And we're very much looking forward to uh, bigger and better things for Creepy Soup. And that's when you know you're doing something, when you are making the kind of headway to the point to where you have to start seriously thinking about expanding. Um, you know, for a lot of reasons, that's a sign in the right direction, right? So we're very much looking forward to what's on the horizon for the ladies over at Creepy Soup. Now, with all that being said, let's get into the week's topic here. Because, like I just mentioned at the top of the program, this stems from a conversation that I had with a friend of mine. And, the one thing that I took away that kept replaying in my head after the conversation was over, after I hung up with him, I'm like, man, he kept asking, how do you do it? How do you do it? How did you get to this point in life when a lifetime ago this is where you were at? And if you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know without a shadow of a doubt that I had to go through it, man. There was a lot of self-growth that was going on. And depending on what your personal feelings are towards me, you've either celebrated me for it or you've condemned me for it. And I can see both sides of the argument. However, those on the latter, you have your opinion because you do not have all the information. That is straight fact. Now, I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to suggest that even if you had all the information, it would change your point of view on me. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, if I'm being honest. And I realize that is a very harsh, a very cold thing to say. But you also have to understand where I'm coming from with this. And if you're really dialed in, and if you really know me on any personal level, you know a lot of what goes into the story. What has brought me to this point in life. And I can tell you, I can sit here right now and tell you without a shadow of a doubt. It doesn't matter if we're doing this on screen or if you were right in front of my face. I would tell you I am in a good place. And things are trending upward. Still got some shit to navigate through, make no mistake about it, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is I can see the glow of the promised land on the horizon, so that lets me know that I am on the right path, seemingly for the first time in a lot of aspects. But it really kept replaying, how do you do it? How did you do it? Like, he kept asking that. And then this list comes across my radar. Like I said, within hours of that conversation ending and the timing of everything, I'm like, okay, this is clearly what we're going to tackle this week. Because, again, this is one of those things where I feel like a lot of you could benefit from this list. Now, appropriately enough, this list is titled Rules for Kicking Ass in Life. And I think that's what drew my attention to it. I was like, reading it, I'm like, yep, I can identify. Yep, been there. Yep. So we're going to tackle this. I realize not every one of these articles are going to resonate with you, because quite frankly, not all of them resonate with me, but the majority of them do. And so we're going to break this down. We're going to give you some examples, and we're going to see how you can incorporate this into your day-to-day in an effort for you to get into the right, here we go, mindset on how to make life your bitch. That's been my mentality. Like, I'm done waiting for doors of opportunity to open up. I'm kicking the bitches off the hinges. That is straight fact. And anybody that has waited for my failure, you're starting to see why that is not going to be a thing. For that very reason, for that mental approach. I am no longer waiting and asking for permission. I'm taking what's mine. I'm taking my lot in life. And it is going to, and it has, and it will continue to cause friction. Again, it does not matter, because I'm not allowing that to dictate my course of action. Why? Because I took my life back after years and years and years and years of less than ideal scenarios and circumstances and environments, and in some cases people that I had to make some very tough decisions on whether or not I wanted to have them be a part of my future, and what role they are going to play in my future. Some of them, their roles have changed. That's life. Life happens. Feelings come into play, and priorities shift a little bit, and you have to respond accordingly. And a lot of that has been met with a great degree of resistance, because it's a contrast to what people had known me as. And when you make a bold statement like life-altering changes in an effort to get to be the best version of yourself, you're going to piss people off. I don't set out to, it's just what happens, right? So, it has been a reoccurring question, just worded in different ways. Where is your head? Why did you do what you did? How did you do what you did? It seems like, it's impossible. I don't subscribe to the word impossible until I realize every possible resource has been exhausted. Okay, if it's something that means something to me, I am going to turn every stone over to make sure that I have exhausted every possible option, every possible scenario, every possible anything, to make sure that, okay, this is not what's happening. But at least I tried, right? Because that's where a lot of our self-doubt comes into play. Did we do enough? The one thing about me is if I'm invested in something, if I dedicate any kind of time or effort into anything, personally or professionally, I'm going to give it my all until I realize that my all just isn't going to improve the situation or change the situation, in which case I got to make another decision. And I continue to do that. Again, not always the easiest choices have to be made, but every choice that is made has been thought about, processed, dissected, like across the board. That's just how I do it, right? But they have here 7 rules for kicking ass in life. Let's start with number 1. See failure as a beginning, not an end. The whole thing can be bottom line with this. Because how many of you have set out on anything that meant something to you? Hobby, job path, relationships. We go into our endeavors with a lot of hope, a lot of optimism, a lot of excitement in some cases. And we sit here and we will put all this time and effort and energy into something, and for whatever reason, it does not materialize the way we thought it would or hoped it would, and that derails a lot of people. When you don't get the result that you feel like you should or you were expecting, that will halt momentum. I look at these things as challenges. I look at things like this as, okay, clearly this is not what was supposed to happen. So how am I going to rebound? What can I take away from that scenario? What life lessons, if any, can I pull out of this in an effort as I move forward to dial back into to make sure I don't make the same mistake again? Or, just what is the right course here? Clearly the one that I'm on is, or was not the right one, and okay, this can be chalked up as a failure. A failure in the terms of the result did not meet my expectations. Okay, that happens all the time. And if you beat yourself up over every single thing that does not go right or does not materialize in the way that you hoped it would, if we dialed in on that aspect, we don't get up off the mat. We don't pick ourselves up off the ground and dust ourselves off. You have allowed that to be the dominant factor. I refuse to. I look at every setback that I have had and I'm like, what went wrong here? And with that knowledge, when you can identify and pinpoint what went wrong, and you can incorporate that moving forward, more often than not, this is not going to be a repeated cycle if you have the right mindset. So, okay, shit did not work out. But that is the end of that chapter. And as you turn that page with the knowledge that you took from the setback, we'll call it. I don't like the word failure. We'll call it setback. If you can take something away from that and you can incorporate that into the next chapter, the next endeavor, the next project, the next whatever is on the horizon, that is a brand new beginning. You are essentially giving yourself another opportunity to start off on square one. Not a lot of people have that, and not a lot of people will incorporate that mindset into it. They look at failure as what it is. Failure. I'm a failure. I suck. I'm not good enough. I'm this, I'm that, I'm another thing. Bullshit. Get that off the fucking table. It just so happens this is not where you were supposed to be. You were meant for something else. Okay? Just because it didn't work out is not a reflection of who you are, unless you are fundamentally a piece of shit. Then that's a whole different conversation. And that's a conversation that people don't like having when they get called out on things. Or when things are brought to them like, this is what you're doing. This is how you are being received. This is, because if you lay it out like that, a lot of times they don't realize it. They have to hear it like that so that they can make changes. Just because it doesn't work out doesn't make you a failure. It means you're meant for something else. So look at that as the new beginning. Number 2, if you don't go after it, you won't have it. I just alluded to this. I have always tried to put everybody else's best interests at the forefront, more often than not, over my own. Because I wanted everybody to be good. Once I realized everybody else was good, then I would have time to focus on me. But by the time that kind of time comes around, my doors of opportunity, my levels of energy, enthusiasm are diminished. Not depleted, but diminished. Because I have taken so much out of my own cup and tried to refill everybody else's to the point to where I'm left with an eighth of a tank. You're not going to get very far on that. I have watched time and time again, all kinds of opportunities and situations I foregone because it was meant it was presented in an ill-timed way because I had put my focus and my priorities on other people or entities, in which case I was not able to seize the opportunity. I was not able to answer that door of opportunity when it did open. So then you just kind of sit there and wait for the next time to roll around, hoping that it rolls around, and you've wasted so much time. I don't do that anymore. I am one of those people that I have a far greater appreciation for the concept of time than most people. People don't respect time. People think they have unlimited amounts of time. You do not. And you realize you don't in the most unfortunate circumstances. That is your reality check. I no longer wait for those reality checks to respect time or to have a greater appreciation on time. I do not fuck around with it. I'm also not waiting around for these doors of opportunity to open. I see something that is appealing to me. I see something where I think I can be beneficial or it's going to be beneficial to me, sometimes both cases, and I'm kicking the motherfucker down. There is no modest knock. It is straight up, size 14, straight through the door. And then I'm walking in with reckless abandon. I am making it my bitch. Because if I don't go after it, I'll never have it. Because so many people wait for things to be handed to them. And in some cases, they actually get that. It is just handed to them on a silver platter. But there's no substance behind it. And I will maintain until my last breath. If it's easily handed to you, it can just as easily be taken away from you. And if it is handed to you, and you are able to hold on to it for any length of time, you're not going to respect it as much as you would if you had actually earned it. Because again, it was just handed to you. You didn't have to work for shit. And how do you get invested in something that's just handed to you, that you did not earn, that you did not work for? Spoiler, you don't. You may think so, but you don't. And again, I'm done waiting for my opportunities. And I'm done waiting for people to get up on my level for me to expand. This is what I'm doing. You can either hop on board or get the fuck out of my way. Talk all your shit all you want. I don't care. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your energy because I just don't care. There's more than enough things on my radar that do deserve my time, effort, and attention. And these are the things that I hold closest to my heart. That's what fuels all of this. I ain't sitting around waiting for life to present its opportunities. I'm taking life by the throat and making it my bitch. Number 3, always do more than is expected of you. This is a lot of this ties into work ethic on a professional realm. On a personal, you can incorporate this into your personal life too, but this is one of those things where I look at this more into the professional realm. You think about your job, what you do for a living, what pays the bills. If you do that, if you do your job half-ass, you're putting out a half-ass product, a half-ass result. And if you are in an industry where there is a customer reliant on what you do for a living, doesn't matter if you work for a car manufacturer, it doesn't matter if you work at a restaurant, it doesn't matter if you work at a bookstore, it doesn't matter. Like, people come to know you based on what you do and what you provide for them as a consumer, as a friend, as a whatever. Now, work ethic is going to be one of those things that is going to carry with it, it's going to ride with you. Your reputation will precede you one way or the other, either glowingly or less than favorable. Now, when people hear your name, how do you want people to feel about that? How do you want people to respond, either internally or outwardly? How do you want to be known as? Do you want to be known as a half-ass, shitless layabout? If that's your goal in life, you're killing it. But if you want to be somebody that's respected, somebody that's looked upon, somebody that is leaned into, then you are going to have to bring your A game and then some. And that has also been my approach. I'm going to give you every single bit of energy and effort that I have in me, and then I'm going to kick it into another gear. I have a reputation on all realms. My coworkers, they know that when I step onto the line every single night, I am going to do my job to the best of my ability, and if I see something that comes across the line that isn't done right or is missing or something like that, like, I will go above and beyond to make sure that that thing is either fixed or done right or it's something, because there is a family that is going to buy this product that I'm working on, and if I'm not confident enough in putting my own family in that or have them exposed to that product, then what the fuck am I doing? Not a lot of people have that mentality. Doesn't matter what you do for a living. Like, you know, and I use what I do as my shoot job as an example, but it doesn't stay within that industry. That's across the board, man. So you owe it to yourself, because if even if you don't get the regular praise from your colleagues and friends and family and things of this nature, you can look at yourself in the mirror every single night or every single day and know that you gave your absolute best during the course of that particular day. And like, I can lay my head down at the end of the day and feel good about the fact that I gave today everything I had. Whether it was a good day or a bad day, I gave it my all. And nobody can ever take that away from me. Ever. And I can rest my head every single night or every single day knowing that I gave it my all. There is no question about that. Number 4, teach others what you know. This depends on the individual. Obviously, if you are somebody that is good at heart, you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of knowledge, you want to pass that on. Especially us as parents, you know, we want to give our children all the tools to be more successful in life than we have been. And a lot of that does fall on us, but a lot of that is, you know, we are able to relay our experiences and our knowledge to our children in a way that they understand it, they can incorporate it into their lives, and then put their own spices on it, for the lack of a better term. It's very much a thing where this is individualized based on how people view life, view the world, you know. I'm not an expert in anything, but I know a little about a lot of things. You know, but what I do know, what I do have some degree of knowledge into, like I do try to pass that on. Again, it doesn't matter what realm of life we're talking about, whether it's personally or professionally, like I dial in on all of that, and I think of, will what I know help my son or my daughter? Is what I know going to help prepare them for their endeavors? Because I mean, I'll use this as an example. I am an encyclopedia of professional wrestling knowledge. That I am an expert in. But my son is something of a baseball prodigy. Does my knowledge in professional wrestling going to help him with his whole full career in baseball or whatever it is that he sets his mind in? Probably not, unless he gets somehow involved in the wrestling business. My daughter has very much an entrepreneurial spirit within her. Now, things that I have done in the wrestling business, and now that I'm doing here with podcasting, I can take aspects of that and instill that in her as she embarks, as she tries to figure out her lot in life. But I can tell you, whatever that child winds up doing, it's going to tie into her creative side of things. And she's very creative. She's very dialed into that. She is my kid, you know. So I can take aspects of what I've learned from a promotional side of things and teach that to her. But you look at your jobs, you know, you get new employees in and things of this nature. They don't know what has to be done until they're taught. This is where you become beneficial. You can become a mentor. You can become somebody that is respected. You can be a go-to person. Knowledge is power, okay? And if you have the ability to share that, then you are really helping the overall project, the industry, the entity, the whatever fits here. You have a hand in that. And you have the ability to be somebody that is remembered for the right reasons or for the wrong reasons. All depending on how you utilize that power of knowledge. 4. Assume nothing and question everything. Son of a bitch. I have maintained a mantra in my life. Don't believe anything you see and only half of what you hear. Especially in a day and age where we have things like social media, where we have things that give us the opportunity to present our points of view, our opinions on a very public platform. With the internet comes a great deal of misinformation. However, the way it's presented, it may seem legit, may seem on the up and up, may seem official in some cases. Not always the case. And, you know, anybody that spends any amount of time on the internet, like, you know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, and if you believe everything that comes across your eyeballs when you're scrolling through social media, that's a problem. Because people are going to put their narrative out there in an effort to shape or bend or mold people's perceptions or points of view or things of this nature. There is that also, that age-old cliche is don't assume anything because you make an ass out of you and me. I try not to assume anything. I try to wait till I get enough information to make an educated decision or guess or what have you as to whatever it is that we're talking about here. But I do question everything. I question every single person I come in contact with. And that's not fair, and I realize that's not fair. But it is fundamentally a defense mechanism. Especially when there are instances where people they think that how do I want to word this without hurting anybody's feelings? I pay attention to details. I do. Every single person I have regular contact with, I pick up on how or what is deemed normal in terms of people's presentation, what they say, how they act, what their intentions are. When you start acting a little shady, when you start raising red flags based on your actions, based on your words, even though I may no sell it at the time, make absolute zero mistake about it. It's getting locked into my brain. I have the ability, let me rephrase this, because there are going to be those that hear this and like their ears are perked up because number one, they know somewhere within what I'm saying here is triggering them because they feel like, oh shit, he's about to call me out. I don't need to call anybody out by name on a public realm. I think that's a bitch thing to do, unless it's an extraordinary circumstance and the faulting parties need to be identified and called out in an effort to prevent further fuckery, right? But there are people who have in the past, and I still deal with this to this day. They feel like they have outsmarted me, that their lot in my life allows me to just dismiss any potential red flags. Ha! I do not. I do not. If anything, if there is any chance of an individual or their actions bringing me any kind of drama, any kind of controversy, any layer of bullshit, I'm not going to engage in a full-blown red-faced screaming match. I'm not going to engage in an argument because at the end of the day, it's wasted time, effort, and energy. What I do is I take that and I identify it and I keep it at the forefront. It is, again, a defense mechanism because something you have done, something that has been said, does not correlate with what is supposed to be. Your actions do not follow suit with your words or vice versa. But I also pick up on people's energy. And when somebody's being shady, they can't help but out themselves unless they have no conscience or nor soul. No soul. Easy for me to say. But most people do. And they think that they have outsmarted me. They think that they're pulling the wool over me. You are not. So you might as well just stop. What you're doing is irreparable damage. You've heard that phrase, death by 1,000 cuts. Like individually, it's sustainable, right? But over time, as things accumulate and all these cuts start to really do the damage over the course of time, this is where people's ties get severed. Because I just don't have the time, nor do I have the desire to sit here. I'm not going to conduct myself with people that I have to sit here and constantly second guess what their intentions are. I'm just not. I don't have the time for it. You don't have the time for it. Not when there's so many other things happening in day to day, in our everyday lives, that deserve that time, deserve that energy for the right reasons. I don't need anybody in my life that I have to sit here and second guess or tiptoe around or anything along those lines. There are people who I've known for years and years, and they feel like they are exceptions to the rule. What they don't understand is a lot of times they are the reason for the rule. Rule in terms of boundaries. I have boundaries up. I have various level of boundaries up. And I've used this as an example before. My inner circle is set up kind of like the Pentagon. There's rings before you get to the center of it. Now there are groups of people that are in my inner circle, yes. But there is only one at the center of it. One individual. One person. And that one person gets unlimited access to me. Unprecedented access to me. They have all of me because they are the one person I don't question. Everybody else, there is some degree of question marks. Again, a lot of it, defense mechanism. But in most cases, it is because something has come across my radar that has raised a red flag based on their intentions. It's unfortunate, but it is true. And in some cases, I realize it's a me problem. But you have to understand that I've been fucked over in more ways and more times than I care to recount, and this is just how it has to be. I didn't ask for this. I didn't write the script. But I also know how I feel inside, and if something, anything, causes me any degree of ill feelings or it challenges my inner peace, I am going to respond accordingly. And a lot of times it is with boundaries. That's just the way it is. You don't have to stick around for it. And nobody has to. But if you're going to be a part of my life, and this is just me, this is just how I go about shit. But if you're going to be a part of my life, you're going to have to accept where you are in my life. I don't say that because I feel like I'm better than anybody or I'm up on any pedestal. This is how I protect myself, because I no longer am going to conduct my day-to-day with any degree of non-stop drama, non-stop anxiety. Those days are done. It just is. I'm not fucking around. I don't have time. I just don't have time. We'll come back to that one. Stop thinking so much and start acting. This was one of the biggest things that I had to rewire in my own mind. I overthought everything. And again, it was defense mechanisms. Much like we just talked about, I question everybody. I question everything. Now, once we go through that process and then I get to a point where, okay, this is good or this is how it's supposed to be, then like I have to go through the process first to make sure that I'm not exposing myself to any degree of bullshit. Once I got into a mindset of changing my approach And this also goes hand in hand with how I conduct myself in any aspect. But once I got over the overthinking part, things tend to go a little bit smoother. There's a lot more time allotted, I guess I should say, because I'm not spending all that time overanalyzing, overthinking, just beating the shit out of it until there's just nothing left, you know. And by that time, doors of opportunity have closed or what have you. But you know, we could sit here with any scenario and do the pros and cons thing, but focus more on the cons, and you know, the what ifs start popping. Well, what if this goes wrong, or what if this happens? Okay, great, I understand that, but what if it goes right? What if this is the step that you needed to take to put you on a path that takes you to ultimately your promised land? You don't know unless you try. The answer is always no unless you ask. That's another one of my mantras. The answer will always be no unless you ask. Now, if you ask and they say no, well, at least you know. There is no more what if or what could be or God, I should have, could have, would have. You take all that shit off the plate, man, and that opens up this vision of clarity, because the clouds of wonder have dissipated. You know without a shadow of a doubt whether it's going to work or not. So quit thinking about it. Quit overthinking about it. Be prepared, yes. Put yourself in a situation to where you have checked off a lot of realms of possibility in terms of things that could go wrong. I do that. But I'm not going to sit here and take every aspect that I have worked through and then splinter that into a million other pieces. That I won't do anymore. If it materializes during the course of the journey or the project or something, that's one thing. I will respond accordingly. If not, you're going to be spending a stupid amount of time overthinking, overanalyzing, over this, over that, to the point to where by the time it does come to time to act, it ain't there. You've missed the boat. Be prepared, yes. But don't sit there and prepare to the point to where there's nothing left to prepare for. That will be ultimately one of your biggest regrets. Straight up. Never compare yourself to others. This is a big one for people. You've heard that expression, keeping up with the Joneses. That's never been a philosophy of mine. Ever. There are things, well, listen, make no mistake about it. Like if I'm listening to one of my favorite podcasts and I'm watching their video presentation and I can hear the quality, like, man, it would be cool to have a studio like that. But I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to put myself in a hole just to have that. You know what I mean? I didn't earn it. Nah, that's not accurate, because I would have earned it in one way or the other. But it's not something that I'm going to make priority and sacrifice or put myself in a less than ideal situation because I was so worried about having something that somebody else had. I just don't do that. I don't compare myself to anybody. I don't compare my numbers to other people's. I don't compare how I look to other people. What's popular, what's trending. Like, I've never given a shit about any of that. I just don't. This is who I am. This is how I dress. This is how I think. This is what I do. This is what I prefer. It's not for everybody. but it's also not based on the idealism of somebody else that I deem to be a success or a role model or anything like that. I will draw inspiration from it, but I'm not going to sit here and allow that to be part of my identity. Being inspired is one thing. Being motivated is one thing. But try to replicate that, trying to replicate another individual because that's what's deemed cool, because some bullshit entity, whether it be a magazine or a website, deems that this is what's acceptable or this is what's popular or this is what's trending. Fuck all that. If that's what you put all of your stock into, if that's what you deem a success, your wiring is fundamentally fucked because you are focusing on the wrong things, man. The wrong things. It can be an accessory to who and what you are, but you can't allow that to be what you are. Because if you do, it's under false pretenses. There's no sustainability to it because your approach will change as the trends change. To me, if I see you as one version of yourself in May, and then I don't see you again until November, and your entire presentation has shifted, it makes me wonder fundamentally, what do you stand for? On what ground do you stand on? Who the fuck are you? Really? Do you know who you are? Now you look at me, I don't have all the fancy fucking fashion tags on my clothes, and well, I can't say that. Like, my girl has really spoiled me with, you know, she wants me to look good, so like she has, you know, she's bought me a couple of things, shoes, you know, because I don't go out of my way to get. I've never been somebody that's had more than 3 pairs of shoes. A black pair, white pair, and a pair of dress shoes, right? And I'm one of those people that if I am going to spend money on something, like, I'm getting every red cent out of it. You know what I mean? But I'm not somebody that has ever wanted or desired or had to have all the designer clothes with all the fancy tags and all the designer names and logos. I've never given a fuck about that. As long as my shit matched and it was clean, like, I was good. There are other people, like, that's how, that, I guess that's what makes them feel good. But I look at it a little bit deeper than that. Because, I mean, anybody who looks at me knows this is who I am. And I'm very comfortable with who I am. I'm very good with who and what I am. Because there is no frills, I don't have to go above and beyond to upkeep or keep in character, for lack of a better term. That's a lot of energy to portray yourself as something that you're fundamentally not. You look good, you feel good because you look good, that's one thing. But do you feel good because of who you are as an individual? If you're not good with you as an individual, you're setting yourself up for failure right out of the gate. That is fact. If you put your level of happiness based on what kind of clothes you wear, if that's your identity, you have really put yourself behind the 8 ball in the grand scheme of things. And if that is how you are received, then you are smack dab in a world that is manufactured. It's not organic, and it's not real. And people who conduct themselves like that, more often than not, are comparing themselves to some other false level of acceptance or popularity or something along these lines. I do not subscribe to this bullshit because it ain't real. It's superficial and it makes no sense at all to me. I just cannot adopt that philosophy. Finally, this is the one I was coming back to because I don't know how deep into the woods I'm going to go with this, but the last rule for kicking ass in life: make peace with the past or you'll pay for it. You will never get to where you want to be in the way that it could be if you keep hanging on to the past. I look at this, I correlate this as the ball and chain. Like, that's just the way it is. This one here, the ball and chain scenario, is probably as good of an example as we can use to illustrate this as anything, because most people have aspects of their past where they would like to forget, they would like to, it doesn't produce fond memories, you know. Mistakes that we've made, things that we had done, things that were done to us. Like, this can shape and mold people individually from the inside out. I have maintained, I'm somebody that can look back over the course of my life from when I was a kid up until the here and now, and where I can pinpoint different things were less than ideal decisions I made. Like, man, why the fuck did you do that? You know, that's a thing. But the one thing about me is once I changed my whole approach and I looked at these less than ideal circumstances and situations that I put myself in or I found myself in, I realized, what's done is done. There is no time machine to go back and redo it or anything like that. And it goes back to that mindset of what's the lesson here? What can I take away from this that's going to be beneficial moving forward? That's going to provide me the best opportunity for success, for happiness, for contentment, for fulfillment, like all of it. If you continuously focus on the past, you're never going to give yourself the best opportunity to explore and to appreciate what the future brings. Along those realms, you also don't have to be in a situation where your past keeps being brought up into your face, especially from people that weren't there at the time that it happened. Because people have opinions all day long, but unless you were there, unless you were a part of that situation, you had a ringside seat to that scenario, you really have no basis to say anything. You can have an opinion, yes, but you also cannot continuously use that as ammunition for an argument or things of this nature, because because I'll tell you this from my perspective, anybody that keeps throwing my past up in my face, like, that shit triggers me, and that will make me withdraw faster than anything. I'm not even close to playing. I, I just cannot. I will not fuck around with that. I've done what I've done. I have beaten myself up more than anybody else ever will. I don't need to be reminded of that. And along those lines, I don't focus on my past, because that's the kind of shit that will keep me from going where I need to be, where I want to be. It's just the way that it is. You're focusing too much on your past is going to cost you so much more in the long run. My suggestion is you have a come to Jesus moment with yourself. And this is one of the most uncomfortable things you will ever do for yourself, but it's also one of the most liberating. Once you come to terms, once you come to peace with what's done is done, we have chalked this up as a failure, or we have chalked this up as, this, with me, I can, there is a line, a time continuum in my life, before then and after then. And the before then represents a significant chunk of time. From day one all the way up to where the line is, all of that is things, all of that is a block of time, an era in my life that I have processed, I have thought about, I have analyzed, I've come to terms with, I'm at peace with, and I'm able to put that to bed. It becomes a blur. And that's not something that I will spend a stupid amount of time thinking about, unless I have to dial into it because something in the here and now forces me to. I have to reconcile something that makes this make sense. You feel me? And if that doesn't happen, then what the fuck are we doing? See, I've conceded. I've come to terms with a lot of, with my mistakes and with the things that I've done wrong, that I feel I've done wrong. And I will give it that time, because otherwise I'm not going to have internal peace. There will always be that thing hanging over my head, and I do not fuck around with that anymore. So I have been able to get to a point in my life where I have identified this is the past, and it's in the rear view for a reason. And I've put that shit to bed. And I'm able to move forward with clear vision and with a lot of purpose. And without a fuck to be given, if I'm being honest. So this was a pretty decent list. I don't have the credit to whoever wrote it, but there is a lot that can be taken away from this as how you can kick ass in life. Because at the end of the day, man, we get one shot at this. You've heard me say it time and time again. We get one shot. And what you do with it is up to you. It can either be the greatest chapter of your life, or it's going to be the chapter of your life that you thought could be, but you just, for one reason or the other, sometimes multiple reasons, you just didn't capitalize. You can go back and look at this list and you can incorporate things in this into your day-to-day, and it's going to give you a better opportunity to kick life's ass. Because life, by and large, doesn't want us to succeed. It wants us to fall into line with the way it wants our lives to go. You can't go through life like that. You got to take back what's yours. You are the captain of your own ship in this vast ocean that we call life. There are going to be storms on the horizon, yes. But as long as you're prepared, you can avoid catastrophe, setback, disappointment, disaster. You can. It's not always going to be easy. And anybody that tells you otherwise is full of shit. But what I can tell you is once you achieve that internal peace, which by the way is the one thing you're not going to bullshit yourself on, because internally you're going to know whether this is legit or not. But once you achieve internal peace, man, that's one of the greatest things you will ever have. Ever. So with that, we're going to go ahead and start to wind this episode down. I certainly appreciate everybody tuning in here this week. If you haven't done so already, check out the holiday store for all of the Christmas-related merchandise for all the shows here on the PFC Entertainment Network. You can go to pfcholidays.printify.me. And we did another big drop of merchandise this past weekend. There's more stuff on the horizon in development, so keep checking back this week for more exclusive holiday merchandise for all the shows here on the PFC network. And you can check out pfcstore.printify.me. That is our main online store. And all of our information is over at pfcnetwork.net. With that, go out this week, be awesome to yourselves and to each other, and we'll see you next week with the Close to the Heart podcast, the flagship show of the PFC Entertainment Network.